Hi, welcome to AmateurLogic.TV episode 23. I'm George.
And I'm Tyler. Seems kind of funny not having to say that as soon as I hear you to time it out on Skype.
Oh, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a pretty good delay in there.
And if you notice, Peter's not with us this time, although we do have a segment from him. He was attending a Hamfest, and I hesitate to pronounce it, Wyong, maybe? W-Y-O-N-G?
I'll buy that.
Okay, close enough. That's the way we say it in Mississippi anyway. But I'm sure he'll correct us next episode. Well, it's been a long time since we've produced an episode here. How was your summer vacation, Tom?
It was really long.
Yeah, mine was too. And
there were some pretty cold spots in there through my summer vacation.
Thanksgiving and Christmas, New Year's.
Long summer.
Anyway, we're back with a new episode and got a few things to cover this time around. We just attended the annual Capital City Hamfest here in Jackson.
Yeah, it's always a prime event to shoot some video.
Oh, it is. And we shot a little bit while we were there. Yeah. They had a record attendance this year. More than 1,150 attended. They only had 1,150 tickets printed, I think, so that's where they lost count.
Oh, wow. That's pretty. I know there were quite a few people there. A lot more than
it was pretty crowded. At certain times, you know, and then it cleared out a little bit, you know, as the evening went on. We also ran into an old friend there.
Yeah.
Howdy, stranger.
Hi.
It's been a while since we've seen you.
Yeah, it has. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been around. They don't let me out of the, they don't let me off the farm too much, out of the institution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was your Hamfest?
Well, it was disappointing, actually.
Really? You didn't sell what you brought?
Didn't sell anything, but I think that's about the par for the course this year. We didn't, I take it back, we did sell a couple of things, a couple of minor, a couple of small things.
I sold a few things, and not everything, though, that I brought. What did you buy?
You know, I didn't buy anything, and it's crazy because I had money this year.
You think they're going to let you out of the door when you leave here?
No, I still have money, so no, I'm sure they probably won't let me out. Yeah.
Well, good to see you, Jim.
Likewise.
Well, while we had Jim handy, we went ahead and put a mic in his hand and convinced him to go out and do an interview for us, for old time's sake.
Hello, Mr. Terry Drake. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. For those that don't know, Terry is the president of the Jackson Amateur Radio Club and chairman of this year's Hamfest, right?
Yes, sir, I am.
How did you manage to wind up with that duty?
I think I didn't step back fast enough.
Well, it's been a great Hamfest. It's been a great year. You did a great job. So did the rest of the club, I'm sure.
Oh, it's really been a good show. We've had a lot of people come out. You know, Hamfest is part of it is about selling your old stuff and getting new stuff, and part of it's about meeting all your friends again and socializing, and you know, it's just a good wholesome event.
Very true, because you know one of my sayings, or one of my philosophies, I guess you'd say, is this is all. It's not junk, but it's all it's all sharing. It's all about sharing. If I've got some equipment around the house that I don't use or abuse anymore, bring it up here and put $25 on it and let the next guy play with it.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. You know, it's like the old saying, one man's junk's another man's treasure. You know, I've seen guys walking around here looking and pick up a part, and man, I need this for my radio, or you know, I'm going to build so-and-so out of this, and you know, ham radio's got something for everybody. You know, you got guys that are builders, you got guys that are plug-and-play people, you know, and everybody has a good time with it.
Well, did you buy or sell a lot of stuff this year?
Well, actually, I was helping a friend of mine, sort of an estate sale sort of thing, and sold some stuff for them. And of course, couldn't help it. I had to buy a new antenna or two, and this sort of thing. But a lot of fun.
I understand. Yeah. Well, we did too, and we're still hanging around for some of those great door prizes. I think. What have we still got left to go to give away?
Well, I know we have the big radio that's FT857, and
I think we still got an antenna analyzer and maybe a Yaesu HT left.
Right.
Or is that a Yaesu what?
I think it is an HT. It's a VX3R, I believe, and the MFJ antenna analyzer. We try to support those folks. They're Mississippi people, so we try to do something with their products.
Yeah, absolutely. They're one of the big supporters of the show, and we're one of their big supporters as well. But Terry, do you guys have any preliminary numbers or stats on this year's Hamfest, or how many attended, or anything such as that?
Well, we won't know for sure until sometime next week. Once we get home and do all the figuring and everything. However, last night we had a large crowd in here, starting about 6:30. It surprised a lot of us. We weren't really expecting it with the economic times being what they are. We were sort of looking to be down a little bit, but we're at least where we were last year, probably, maybe even a third or so up from that. So, it's been real impressive.
That's great. I know it's always a big benefit to the JARC to do well at this event. Terry, thanks for taking out time to talk to us and share a little about this year's Hamfest. We appreciate your efforts and the JARC efforts very much. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a team effort. It's not a one-man show, and we enjoy putting it on. Thank you, Jim.
You bet.
Well, we didn't shoot any videos of the sessions this year or what was actually on the swap tables, but they did have some good stuff there.
Yeah, they had some really good stuff. The usual vendors were there. MFJ was there like always.
Yeah.
And tons of swap tables. Had some great old gear.
Oh yeah.
I like looking at all that stuff.
The old Collins and the old Drake and the Swans, and I even saw a couple of pieces of old Collins gear there that I could have afforded, but I could only afford the transmitter or the receiver, not both. so I didn't go there. There was a guy there selling Boston Acoustics HD radios, little tabletop stereo HD radios.
Yeah.
For $25 a piece. They were returns to Radio Shack, and I bought one of those.
Yeah, I wish I'd have known. I missed out on those. I did see them, but I didn't go over and check them out very close.
Yeah.
I realized what they were. I'd have picked one of those up myself.
Yeah, I got home and looked it up, and it lists for like $2.99 or something like that.
Wow, you got a pretty good bargain.
Yeah, I didn't get the 12-volt power supply or the remote control for it, but the only problem was a little F connector on the back wiggled a little, so I soldered it down good to the frame, and heck, $25, I've got an HD radio, FM.
Is there anything to listen to on it?
Well, in Mississippi right now, the only stations broadcasting in HD are the state-owned public radio network, and they've got a couple of HD channels on there.
Well, I'll probably find another deal on one before some more programming comes out.
Yeah, you probably will, because I was talking with my buddy over at Clear Channel the other day, and they had in their budget to go HD on some of their stations here this year, but that got canceled, so it's going to be a while.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get around to it eventually.
There was a lot of other great stuff there. The usual assortment of old antenna parts, old rigs. I saw a lot of decent old rigs for sale.
Yeah.
And some not so old.
A lot of parts for sale.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I bought this year. A little voltmeter and big old bag full of parts and the usual antenna connectors I always have to get.
Yeah.
Not a Hamfest without a bag of PL259s.
Yeah, that's what you say every year.
Yeah, I get them every year.
And since the last Hamfest, I lost an old friend. It's my Radio Shack FETVOM.
Oh.
I was working on a guitar amplifier one night and pulled on the test leads too far and it hit the ground, and it broke the little hairspring on the meter movement in there. I tried soldering it back. That's just too delicate. So, anyway, I ran across a guy there selling Simpson 260s. He had a wide range of them, and I bought the best looking one I could find there. It's still nice and shiny, and I've used it several times since I bought it.
Yeah, it looks new. I saw those there on that table. You had quite a few of them.
You should have got one, man. Nothing like analog voltmeter.
Yeah, you kind of threw me when you said you lost an old friend. I was trying to figure out who that was.
Let's see, what else was there? Well, I bought a couple other things. I got that 260. I got the HD radio. But I also ran across a friend there who was selling some old Aphex rack gear, and I bought 4 pieces of that for a real good price.
Oh yeah, you got a steal on that.
I got a tube type preamp, mic preamp, parametric EQ, RL exciter, and an compressor limiter for a real low price. And haven't put those on the air yet, although I already run a Model 104 RL exciter.
Yeah.
So I knew what it was and knew it was something I liked.
Yeah, that thing sounds good on the air.
Yeah, I like it. I've got a new secret weapon on the air too that I've just resurrected over the weekend, but we're not going to talk about that this episode. We'll cover that in a future one. So it was a great Hamfest. I even took some stuff and sold this year.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, you remember we used to have the old dual band link set up.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we had a VHF, UHF link set up for years and years, and it's been down for a good while now, so I decided to go get the parts and sell off some of it. So I sold the VHF and UHF bandpass filters that I had on there to keep the intermod out, and just some other items I had around the shack here. You know, I've never really taken anything to sale down there in a long time.
Yeah. I didn't get so much this year. Actually, I didn't sell anything. I moved twice in the last 2 years, so I pretty well cleaned out. When I was moving, I eBayed a lot of things like that,
Yeah.
so I just didn't have much to take this time.
Yeah. I sold almost everything I took, which was good. You know, I need to get rid of the stuff. I wasn't using it anymore.
Oh yeah.
So I more or less swapped my old junk for somebody else's. When it's all said and done, I think I spent $50 cash, and
Yeah.
you know, the rest was
You-
from
You
myself.
probably got just enough stuff to fill up the spot you cleared off on the show.
Well, actually,
Got a little more?
I got a little more, I'm afraid. Well, while we were there, we run across a guy from one of the local schools here in Ridgeland, the town I live in. Old Town Middle School has a club that specializes in amateur radio, robotics, and technology, and we talked with him a little bit just to see what the club was about. We're talking with Bill Richardson, N5VEI of the Old Town Middle School Robotics, Radio, and Technology Club.
Yes. Is that what it is? Yep.
And that's in Ridgeland, Mississippi, my hometown. Bill, thanks for talking with us today.
Thank you.
What does the Robotics, Radio, and Technology Club do?
We focus on really 3 areas: computers, robotics, and ham radio. And we have got 3 or 4 children, students, 8th graders, 7th graders that focus on robotics, 3 or 4 more that work on the ham radio, and then we have a few that are PC oriented, that they build computers, tear them down, and tinker and network computers.
And the kids this age seem to really be into that kind of thing?
Cell phones are a little problem, but the technology, actually getting their hands on, really helps. The robotics helps because they can assemble, look at the PC oriented stuff from a circuit level, and they get their hands, you know, into it, and they get to use the computer to program and so forth. The ham radio has just really caught on because when they learn they can hear people from around the world, it really helped, and several of them actually put down the robots just for the ham radio, and so they've gone over now and switched over. And we actually had one student today test and pass his technician test. So we're real motivated.
Well, that's great. I see on the robotics here, it looks like you're using parallax stuff. Basic stamp, is that?
Yes, it's a basic stamp 2. It's a parallax Bobot, and it's BS2, basic stamp 2.
And the students assemble these kits themselves?
They assembled the two on the outside, but the middle is a teacher that I attended the ARRL Teacher Institute, and it's kind of a teacher robot, I guess, because I got a board that they don't have. But yes, the students assemble the other two. We have 5 kits in total for the students that we got, and they've assembled them from the ground up.
So do any of them write the programs for the robots, or do they come with programs that you run already?
They're in the manuals, but I don't let them cut and paste. I actually want to make them write the programs, but they do have guides, instruction booklets, and the examples are there. In a few weeks, we're going to try to get them to program to run through a maze. So, you know, it'll work. It's trying to get them motivated, but it's fun for them.
Well, on the amateur radio side of the club, do you have a station there at the school set up?
We do. The Jackson Amateur Radio Club donated a Kenwood 180, and we've running a vertical outside the building, and we've been operating for about 4 weeks now. And we're also the recipient of the ARRL ETP grant, so we'll be getting a brand new station this year, care of the league, and we'll be I think it's a Yaesu FT 450. And so we'll be a full operating station. We've got 2-meter, 440, everything. So we're operational.
Well, that's great. I'll have to come by one day and take a look at the station and see what's actually going on at the school.
Be glad to have you. Be glad to have you.
Is there anything else you can tell us about the club we haven't discussed already?
Really, all I would do is encourage teachers and technology people that are in the school district to really go to the ARRL, try to get resources from them, and integrate it into their curriculum, because once the principals and parents see that the kids are into the technology, they're real supportive, and it has to work from the ground up. But we need it in our schools. We desperately do.
I'll agree with you. When I was coming up, you know, that's all the kind of stuff I liked, and I didn't have to be pushed in that direction. But these kids today have so many distractions in other areas that, you know, we need more scientists and technologists in this country.
That's right. It's we've got 2 or 3 kids that want to be engineers, and several others, but the biggest distractions are the cell phones and other stuff. But it's like I've told parents, this will keep them out of trouble, keep them at home doing the right thing. So I really encourage teachers and parents and principals to get involved and get this in your schools.
Thanks for talking with us, Bill.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Well, on a related topic, there was a news story out about what used to be the Amateur Cowboy Radio Club. Now it's Amateur Radio Youth Association in New Mexico. It was founded by Dustin N0DRC, Jared KE5LZV, and Phil KE5LZX. Anyway, they're looking for people to help out with their club, teachers, faculty members, and so forth. They've got a website, www.ke5rpv.org. If you're interested in helping out with them, you can go check out there, or you can join. There's a membership application tab on the top left of the page.
Yeah, you know, we really need to concentrate on getting more kids interested in the hobby and into it. When I was young, there were no hams in the little town I grew up in. But I still knew what ham radio was, and I had an interest in it, and I bought the ARRL manuals and all such as that. But I'm not sure a lot of the kids today even know it exists.
Yeah, I don't think so. I noticed when we were at the Hamfest this past weekend that most of the people there were our age or even older, and very few young people. So it's really important to try to encourage the youth nowadays participate, get licensed.
Yeah, because we will lose these frequencies if we don't keep our numbers up.
That's right.
And speaking of amateur radio in general, and the FCC in particular, you know, Raleigh's been gone for almost 6 months, and yeah, he was the head enforcement guy at the FCC that dealt with amateur radio. So we've just kind of been, well, running wild here for the past 6 months. And if you listen to the HF bands, any 80 meters particularly, you might have caught on to that. Well, they finally appointed someone else. They appointed Laura Smith. She's going to be Riley's successor, and they think she's the right person. she said, that amateur radio is self-policing, but, the FCC still wants to help us maintain civility, and sometimes we need a stronger hand than just the amateurs ourselves
Absolutely.
can give, and that's where, the FCC Special Counsel comes in. And she's not a ham, although she does have the study guides. Now, whether or not she's studying, I don't know, but
Let's hope so.
yeah, let's hope so. Anyway, you can visit with her at the Dayton Hamvention, which will be May 15th through 17th in Dayton, Ohio, of course.
Yeah.
We welcome Laura, and I hope she enjoys her new position with the FCC. And we hope everybody will behave themselves and won't have to receive letters from her.
Yes, no doubt.
Tommy, you got a recall story there, don't you?
I do. Radio Shack. Radio Shack's recalling some power supplies due to electrocution and fire hazards.
Wow.
That's not good.
No.
The part numbers are, the Radio Shack catalog numbers rather, are 22-507 and 22-508 with date codes of 08A04 through 01A08. And these are 13.8 volt DC power supplies. They were sold at Radio Shack stores nationwide from October of 04 through January of 08. They were between $50 and $85. So if you've got one of those, you may want to contact Radio Shack about the recall.
Well, there's a new online ham radio magazine that's available for free now at this address. It's from France, and of course we don't read French or speak it, but there's also an English version available on the website at this address, and I'd encourage you to go there and have a look. It's pretty nice, and it won't cost you anything.
Well, the price is good.
Yeah. Well, let's do a few emails, Tommy.
Sounds good. We've got quite a few since it's been a long time
Oh,
since
yeah.
we've had a show.
And we won't even cover half of the emails
Yeah.
we've received. So.
We've got an email from Hans in the Netherlands. Hans has the website www.ch73.net. I guess that stands for channel73.net. He says the purpose of his website was to show videos of amateur radio material by, for, and about amateur radio. He's also got some video feeds on there from AmateurLogic.TV, and you can find yours truly and his truly on there.
And all the
amateur,
Trulies, yeah.
all the truly. So Amateur Logic episodes, I guess, are on there. I guess we've got them all up there by now.
Yeah.
So anyway, check that out. The website again is www.ch73.net.
There's a couple of other ham radio TV websites too, aren't there? That we've heard from.
www.hamradiotube.com. That's I guess that's sort of a spin-off or takeoff on YouTube, sort of type thing, but totally amateur radio related. Check that out. And then we've got another one from Paul, KC6QLS. He says he's developing a website for amateur radio operators, all about amateur radio on TV and or the big screen. Said he saw our show on YouTube, thought he'd send us a note and let us know about his site. The site is www.arprsd.org, and he says click on the amateur radio display and amateur radio movies link. You can see the story about how the information started and how he got his site going on the December 2008 QST on page 100. So that'd be some interesting reading also.
That was an interesting website. I went and looked at it, and he does have a lot of stuff on there about ham radio in the movies.
Yeah.
So
cool.
We might swap a clip or two from there at some point.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I know some of that stuff on the movies isn't too accurate.
Yeah.
The ham radio stuff.
Well, I had an email here called Small World, and it's from a guy named Mike out in Irvine, California. He said, "Hi, George. I've been a big fan of the show called Amateur Logic, and I didn't put two and two together until I saw episode 7. Says, I'm finishing up my associate's degree in broadcast engineering through the Cleveland Institute of Electronics, and I always enjoy watching the shows, especially when you cover commercial radio equipment." And I thought, well, what? Doesn't quite add up. And then I saw the PS down here. It also helped to explain that I work for KUCI, where we have used your automation system for close to 10 years now. You remember those guys,
Oh,
Tom?
yeah, I remember those guys very well.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks,
So,
Mike.
It is a small world.
It is.
I've got one from Chad. Says, keep up the great work. He's a big fan of the show. He always enjoys the new episodes. He even has a link to AmateurLogic.TV in his PSK31 brag file. Chad's call sign is KM5QF.
Cool.
I appreciate it, Chad.
And I've got an email here from Andy, WB5TTE, who we spoke with last year at the Hamfest. He said he just got around to watching episode 21, and he heard his name mentioned when we were reading emails. He says, please forward this information to Brian, KE7MMU, regarding the CW keyboard I held up in the introduction to the ham radio program at the Jackson Amateur Radio Club Hamfest in February. So that was the program we covered.
Remember that?
And I remember reading the email about the guy wanting to know what that device was. And he says it's an MFJ 492X memory keyer and keyboard. It's from MFJ Enterprises. He says, great little package if you don't want to drag along a computer. However, today, like you, I use programs like Ham Radio Deluxe or Mix W for digital modes and CW. So thanks, Andy, for that tip. Now we know what that mystery device was.
Yep. Okay, I've got one from Randy, KB3IFH. He says he was wondering if we would be doing an episode on Digital Master 780 anytime soon. He said it would be a great follow-up to our Ham Radio Deluxe piece. Keep up the good work, guys. And actually, that's a great suggestion, and I think we're going to probably take that one and run with it here sometime in the very near future.
Yeah, I think that would be a great one. I've used the program myself.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in there.
Oh yeah, it really is. It covers just about all the digital modes. And I've got one other item here. This is from George, me. It's an email that I sent to you and Jim a while back from listening to a Solder Smoke episode. Bill, has mentioned Gene Shepard several times. He was a radio host up in New York area, I believe. I'd highly suggest that you go over to the Solder Smoke blog. It's at this address. And if you look around, you'll find links to 3 different Gene Shepard audio files that are on the internet now, files of his programs. And you may have to listen a few minutes before he gets into the good part of it, but you'll really love it. He's got some great ham radio stories in there. Yeah. Really, really good stuff. It really take you back. And by the way, did some research, and I found he is also in the movies.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you remember the movie A Christmas Story?
Yeah, you shoot your eye out, kid.
Yeah. Well, he was the narrator and also one of the writers of that movie.
Okay. I actually remember seeing his name. We watch that movie every year.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Okay, I've got one from Brian. I don't have Brian's call sign here. Oh, I do have it. KD8IIS. He said he heard on one of the shows that we built an 80-meter in-fed antenna. Can you direct me to the episode that we did that on? Also, can you guide me to the plans for it or version of it? Any help would be much appreciated. Love the show. Thanks for making them. Please tell the others and keep them coming. Well, we're working on that again, Brian, of keeping them coming. So, actually, I'm using an off-center fed dipole antenna. When I was up in Missouri, my lot was sort of small, so I had it in a bent, in a sort of an L configuration. It still worked pretty well. And a friend of mine in Atlanta told me about it, so I thought I'd try it. I've been pretty happy with it. And here's the URL for the plans that I used to build it.
Cool. So it's not really an in-fed antenna.
It's actually, so off-center fed, just a little bit from dead center. So
yeah, I don't
broadband.
recall doing an in-fed 80-meter, but
yeah, I don't know.
we might have and just don't remember it. It's kind of short memory when you get our age, I guess.
What'd you say?
Yeah, I'm using a 40-meter off-center fed dipole too myself. You had such good luck with it.
Yeah, I really like it. It's very broadband. It's good general purpose antenna.
Yeah. Well, Peter did a segment for us for this episode, and it's on a warm spot.
Like in the pool?
Today I thought I'd try and build a warm spot. Now you're probably asking yourself, what's a warm spot? As I like to say, a warm spot is like a hot spot, but cooler. Now you've probably accessed a hot spot at some point in time. Perhaps you've been to McDonald's, you've opened your laptop, there's been a captive portal web page there which you agree to the terms and conditions, and lo and behold you're given some free internet access. A warm spot is kind of like the same idea, but without the internet access, and it's portable. The idea is that you provide information to people on a short-term local basis. Now, to implement this, I thought I'll use an old laptop running Windows and use that with a router and see if I can configure this to deliver a web page in much the same way that a hotspot does. For the demonstration purposes today, I'm going to use my standalone computer running Windows, and I'm going to use this TP-Link TLWR642G wireless router, but probably any router would do the job. So let's get into the configuration. Now this is how I went about building my warm spot. The first thing I did was I made up a web page using Netscape Composer. I then created a subdirectory called c:/html, and I called my web page index.html and put it into that subdirectory. Any other web pages that you want to make as part of your site could probably go into this subdirectory as well. I've got a picture of a train which is part of the web page, and that's also been put into the subdirectory. Now, to implement my captive portal, I would need a DNS redirection program. So what I did was I went to dnsredirector.com, or rather www.dnsredirector.com, and I downloaded a freeware program called DNS Redirector. This will redirect any DNS queries to an IP address of my choosing. When that program is installed, it installs itself to a subdirectory called c:/DNSREDIR. Now there's a little bit of configuration needed here. What I did was I went to dnsredir.ini. Under simple DNS equals, I put simpledns.txt, and under auth keywords file equals, I put authorized.txt. I then made up two text files. The first one, authorized.txt. I've just put in a star in there, that's all, and I've saved that. I've used Notepad to make the file, by the way. And using Notepad again, I've made up a file called simpledns.txt, and that simply contains one entry which says 192.168.1.199, then a tab, and then a star. And that basically tells my DNS redirection program that I want all queries to be redirected to that IP address. To deliver a web page through my captive portal, I needed a web server. So I went to www.aprilium.com, that's aprelium.com, and I downloaded and installed that program. Once it's installed, one should have an icon on one's desktop which says Abyss Web Server. I then double-clicked on that, and I had a little flashing icon down in the bottom right-hand part of my screen. If I right-clicked on that and went to Show Console, I log in. Initially it might ask you for a username and or password, but I just click OK because I've already popped those in. And then I come to the Abyss Web Server console. To configure, I went to Configure, General, and under Documents path I put in c:/HTML. Effectively what I'm doing there is telling the web server that my web page is stored in c:/HTML, and this is the web page that I want to deliver to anybody connecting to my warm spot. Click on OK, get out of that, right click on the icon again and just exit to get out of that. The next thing I did was I gave my computer a static IP address. So I went to Start, Settings, Network Connections, and found my local area connection. I right-clicked on that, went down to Properties, scrolled down to Internet Protocol TCP/IP, clicked on Properties, and then I clicked on Use the following IP address, and I typed in 192.168.1.199 for my IP address, and gave myself a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. So basically what I've done there is I've given my computer a static IP address of 192.168.1.199. Clicked on OK and got out of that. The final thing I did was I configured my router. I opened Internet Explorer. In the address field I typed 192.168.1.1, and I had to input a username and a password for my router, which is generally for TP-Link routers admin and admin. And now I'm in the router settings part. I then went to network, WAN, scrolled down, ticked use these DNS servers, and under primary DNS I put 192.168.1.199. I then went to wireless settings. I changed the SSID to Pete's Home and put it on channel 5, and then saved my settings. Okay, that's all ready to run now. Okay, everything's now installed. Let's see if we can get this to work. First of all, I've made a shortcut to the DNS redirection program, which is in my C:DNS redir subdirectory. So I double click on that, and up should come up a blank white box. Then I go to the Abyss web server icon, double click on that, and that starts up my web server. If I right click on the icon down the bottom and go to Show Console, we'll just make sure that the web server is actually running properly. Log in, and it should say default host on port 80 running. It's very important to have any firewalls switched off, or any programs or memory resident programs that actually listen on ports. Make sure they're switched off as well. That's all running pretty well, so we'll get out of that, and we'll just leave the DNS redirection box running. When a query comes through that causes the program to redirect the DNS query, some details should pop up in this white box here. Okay, we've configured the warm spot. Let's see if it works. I'm going to use my Asus EPC to try and log into the router here, and we'll see whether we can get our captive portal page coming up. Alright, the first thing I need to do is to go down to my wireless connection, view wireless networks, and there's my router there, Pete's Home. So we'll double click on that and connect. It's acquiring a network address, and we're now connected. If I have a quick look at that, it will tell me that the IP address that's been allocated is 192.168.1.100. That was allocated by DHCP, and it might even tell me that the DNS server is 198.168.1.199, which is good because that's the IP address of my standalone computer. Now if I open up Internet Explorer, it says connecting to site 192.168.1.199, and lo and behold, there's my warm spot website. It says here, hi there, you've arrived at my test warm spot here in Upper Camberwell. Thanks for visiting. And there's a picture there of Puffing Billy, one of our local steam trains. Okay, let's see what's happened on my screen here with DNS Redirector. I've now got an entry here, and it's telling me that it's redirected a DNS request from 192.168.1.100, which is the IP address that was allocated to my EPC. And there you have it, proof of concept. The warm spot really works. However, I have to say it's still a little bit flaky, and it probably the idea needs to be developed a little bit further. Probably some settings need to be fixed up a little bit, and also there would need to be some firewalling and security put on so that people can't hack in and replace the web pages. But as a concept, the ability to deliver a web page on a localized short-term basis, I think it works pretty well.
That was quite interesting, Peter.
Yeah, good job, Peter. Appreciate that.
Not at all what we expected.
That's not really true. Yeah, he always does a great job.
He
I
does.
appreciate all the help he does.
No, I meant the warm spot.
Oh, the warm, yeah, yeah, different kind of warm spot.
I've got an email here. It comes from Ray, KJ4CNN. It says, George, I'm going to tell you a secret. Amateur Logic got me into ham radio. I've been thinking about it for a long time and even studied back in the 70s, but never sat on an exam. Same thing with me.
Mm-hmm.
I studied in the 70s too and never made it to the exam. He says, now at the ripe old age of 58, I stumbled across your videos and was instantly hooked. I saw how casual you guys were and how much fun you were having, and it struck me that I'd like to do that too. Well, great, Ray. He says, I got my tech and general tickets right away and started studying for my extra, which I'll have, I'm sure, in January when I take my test, and we haven't heard whether he took the test or not in January. He says, now I'm using a boat anchor, a Yaesu FT101EX, as well as band-dedicated mobile and HT transmitters for 70 centimeters, 2 meters, and 10 meters, with all kinds of wire antennas coming off my house. I'm sure his neighbors really appreciate us. I'm solidly hooked and crazy for this hobby. Don't want to take up too much of your time, but did want to thank you and the guys for introducing me to this very nice hobby. And as a coincidence, I ran across Ray one night on 3.820 megahertz, the CAM radio network that meets there every night around 10 or 11 o'clock. And they've got a group in the East Coast and the West Coast, and we'll cover the CAM radio network in a future episode. Yeah. But Ray and I stumbled across each other there one night, just sort of by accident, and it was great to hear that we got him into the hobby. You know, we've heard that from a few people.
Yeah,
and
I always like to hear that.
And that's one of the main things the show is about, is encouraging people to get into amateur radio and how much fun it can be.
Yeah, congratulations on your new ticket, Ray.
Yeah.
I've got an email here from Scotland, from Sandy. Says, hi Tommy, love your shows, big fan. Love, excuse me, though my hobby is radio scanning, have a question. What would be the best way to improve reception with an antenna homemade for all of the bands from 25 megahertz through 954 megahertz? What kind of do-it-yourself antenna can I make? A discone antenna, I guess, would probably be the most broadbanded scanner antenna. And if you Google it, there should be several plans that pop up for that.
All kinds of information.
But that's probably going to give you your broadest coverage, I think.
And I have one last email here. Greetings from your Louisiana neighbors. I wanted to say I found your website by accident, but wow, what a find. I have to tell you that I really enjoy your adventures, and we've had a few over the past 22 or so episodes. George, you inspired me to attempt building and to check out different ways of doing things. In fact, suggesting looking it up on the web has a new meaning to me now. After seeing you do the SMT segment, I wanted to find out more. I, of course, had to check out the tools that you'd need for doing this, as they say. And they're real proud of those tools, and yeah, they are, and I don't own any of the real ones. He says if he bought the tools, he wouldn't be able to afford any of the parts to use with them.
Good point.
And he was doing some searching on the web, and he ran across a link on how to make a surface mount soldering iron. And here's the link right here. And I went and checked that out myself. And this came from Daryl, KC5DHP. And I read a little bit about it and it looked interesting, and reading the comments on there, some people thought it was great and other people said it really didn't work like they thought it would. So
yeah, your mileage will vary, huh?
yeah, there you go.
Okay. Well, I've got one from Ron, WD8SBB. He says, an EHAM comment got me hooked on your site. Great job you guys do. I know it must consume a lot of your time. Your time is definitely contributing to a better hobby. In your surface mount show, you used an embosser blower. I guess he's talking to you, George.
Mm-hmm.
Being cheap, I was wondering if I could use my variable heat gun to perform the same function. I'm fairly sure it would get hot enough, as I have unsoldered pipes with it. I would guess it would need to set at a reasonable temperature. What, excuse me, what might that temperature be?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what the temperature would be, and I'd suggest you do some research. It's probably going to be different for different components. And that heat gun will probably work because that little hot air embossing tool gets really hot. But I would caution you, don't use any more heat than is necessary to actually do the job.
Yeah, probably want to experiment with that before you use your real project.
Yeah.
See what works.
I tried on some old surface mount boards and see what it takes to heat up the parts and get the solder to flow.
Yeah, and that's into my emails.
Well, I believe that's it for episode 23. It's been great doing one of these again.
Yeah, it has. It feels pretty good.
It does.
Hopefully it won't be 9 months or so before the next one comes out.
Hopefully not. We have plans to do some more in the near future here, and Peter has already produced several segments for us that will be entertaining from Australia. And you know, during the time off, I've been working on a number of projects myself that I'll be showing in future episodes of some real interesting mods and different things that you can do with your ham radio gear that really add a new dimension to the hobby.
Yeah, that's some pretty exciting stuff you've been playing with.
Yeah.
Actually got me wanting to buy some more gear now.
Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
It is.
Making your buddy want to buy more gear.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for episode 23. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
We'll see you again.
Bye.